Samsung's new Z Fold is here, and it comes with quite a few changes this time around. So what's new, and could this be the foldable phone you've been waiting for? I'm Will for GSM Arena, and let's find out in our Galaxy Z Fold7 review. The Z Fold series phones are foldable flagships. They have a large inner screen protected within a clamshell form factor, and an outer screen that you can use while the device is folded. The Z Fold7 follows the same mold as its predecessors, but there are some nice refinements and upgrades to be found here. For example, the new Z Fold gets the 200 megapixel main camera we saw in the Galaxy S25 Ultra, and its ultrawide cam has autofocus now too. And Samsung has done away with the low-quality, under-display selfie camera on the inner screen. It's now a regular 10 megapixel one with a wider field of view. But maybe the most noticeable change while you're using the phone is its design. The Z Fold7 is considerably lighter and thinner than the previous model, and yet both its inner and outer screens have gotten larger. The Z Fold7 is only 8.9mm thick while folded, pretty much like a regular smartphone. And when unfolded, the phone is a razor-thin 4.2mm. And despite being taller and wider, the phone has gone down 24 grams in weight from last year. The back panel is protected by Gorilla Glass Victus 2, and the frame is made of advanced armor aluminum. The ingress protection hasn't changed since last year. You get waterproofing and dust protection. The IP rating here is IP48. Let's talk a little more about the hinge. It has a new design that's even tinier, and yet Samsung claims it's more durable. It can hold the phone open to different angles, and the phone folds shut without a gap. Visually, the crease where the inner screen folds over looks the same as before. It is noticeable if you look for it, but it does seem to feel a bit flatter when you run your finger over it. The inner screen itself is an 8-inch foldable OLED panel. There's a high resolution and a 120Hz refresh rate. And Samsung claims better durability thanks to thicker glass and a titanium plate layer. We do appreciate the change from 7.6 inches to 8, but unfortunately Samsung has let go of something that we had last year, and that's S Pen stylus support. Of course, you get the black bars on the top and bottom when playing back media because of the aspect ratio, but otherwise this display looks good. It's sharp and contrasty, and there's support for HDR10 Plus video playback too. As usual for Samsung, there's no Dolby Vision video support here. And then there's the second screen. This one is a 6.5-inch panel with a 1080p resolution, and again a 120Hz refresh rate, and is protected by Gorilla Glass ceramic too. This display is bigger than last year's 6.3-inch cover screen, but a more noticeable change is the aspect ratio. It's 21:9 now, meaning the display is wider. These are the same dimensions as a typical smartphone, as opposed to previous Z Folds, which were shaped more like a TV remote. When it comes to brightness, both displays are actually a bit dimmer than last year, but they're still plenty bright. On the inner screen, we measured to just over 700 nits maximum with the manual slider, and this boosted to about 1400 nits in auto mode. The previous model went up to 1600. And on the cover screen, it's much the same story. In manual mode, we maxed out at less than 700 nits, and with auto mode, it boosted to about 1400 nits. The refresh rate behavior of the Z Fold7 is the same on both the inner and the outer display. The 120Hz smooths out movements on the screen while you swipe around, and thanks to LTPO tech, it's quite adaptive, able to go down as low as 1 Hz when idling to save some power. For audio, the Z Fold7 has a pair of stereo speakers. They're quieter than last year, earning a loudness score of average. And while vocals and highs are well defined, there's not much bass. You can listen for yourself with our comparison tool linked below. For biometric input, the Z Fold7 has a side-mounted fingerprint reader. It's speedy and reliable. And you can get the Z Fold7 with 256 or 512 gigs or a whole terabyte of storage on board. That's not expandable through microSD. This year's Galaxy Foldables are the first phones we've seen to launch with Samsung's new One UI 8 out of the box. It's running on top of the new version of Android too, Android 16. Visually, One UI 8 is the same as One UI 7. While an app is open, you get access to a taskbar at the bottom for recent apps, like you would on a tablet. One welcome addition is that Circle to Search has been expanded. It now works within games, so you can get hints on the fly. Like before, multitasking is quite easy here. You can have multiple apps open at once through a split screen and pop-up window. And your AI results can appear in a pop-up as well, handy if you want to ask Gemini something alongside your running apps. And like on other Android phones, you can have a natural flowing conversation with Gemini via the Gemini Live mode. Gemini Live also lets you just point the camera at something that you want to input to the assistant and get help with. Gemini Live isn't just about the input method, it's able to use info from multiple apps to carry out the task you need. For example, if you're going on a trip, you can show it your clothes and ask if they're suitable for the current weather at the place you intend to travel to. And when it comes to support, the Galaxy Z Fold7 is entitled to 7 major OS upgrades and 7 years of security patches. On the Z Fold7, you get a Qualcomm chipset, a Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy, just the same as you'd find in this year's Galaxy S series flagships. As expected, the performance in benchmarks is excellent, right near the top of the charts. There's plenty of power here, as expected from a modern flagship. However, the results during our prolonged stress test were nothing to write home about. We observed significant thermal throttling, similar, or even worse than what we've seen from other flagships. The Z Fold7 has the same battery capacity as last year, at 4400 mAh. The battery life is about the same too. It's okay, but not spectacular. The phone earned an active use score of 11 hours and 44 minutes when testing on the inner screen, and 12 hours and 56 minutes when using the cover screen. The Z Fold7 has support for 25-watt wired charging, and there's no charger included in the box. The charging speed is slightly better than last year, but it's still far from fast. The phone barely replenishes half of its battery charge in 30 minutes, while a full charge takes almost an hour and a half. There's also support for wireless charging and reverse wireless charging. The Z Fold7's main camera has gone from 50 megapixels to 200 this year, and on the back that's paired with a 3x telephoto cam and an ultrawide with autofocus. It's no surprise that the main camera's results are basically identical to those from the S25 Ultra. It's the same hardware. We're looking at excellent stills with impressive dynamic range, plenty of detail, and excellent sharpness. Colors are more conservative than what we've seen in the past from Samsung, though they're far from muted. It's overall a well-appreciated camera upgrade, bringing Samsung's Fold in line quality-wise with the standard flagship. And here are some shots and portraits of people. They come out great. As expected, the 2x digital zoom is pretty good for the most part. We see minimal loss of sharpness and detail in closer subjects, but some foliage and fine detail in the distance gets lost. When shooting in low light, the Z Fold7 will rarely use its night mode processing automatically. The default results are lacking in fine detail and look straight up soft. There's also a tendency for a cold white balance, which turns some light sources greenish. Contrast also needs adjusting. If you manually toggle on the night mode, it fixes the contrast, adds some much needed sharpness, and produces better colors overall. The white balance is also better, and colors look much closer to the real ones. And the noise is also seeing some improvement. Moving on to the 3x telephoto cam. In good lighting, it delivers a strong performance, resolving fine details equally well in close and distant objects. However, when the light is less than ideal, the quality deteriorates. We've seen better 3x telephoto solutions from competing foldables, mainly because the Z Fold7's telephoto sensor is quite small. This limitation is more apparent at night. The default stills are extremely noisy, lack fine detail, and are way too soft. Toggling on the night mode fixes most of the issues though. It clears up the noise, boosts sharpness, and brightens up the scene. But even with the night mode on, we find the stills a bit on the soft side. Even though the ultra-wide camera doesn't sound impressive on paper, it produces solid photos. Its field of view is extra wide, and it still maintains good sharpness. The dynamic range might not be as wide as on the main camera, but this is one of the better ultra-wide solutions out there. And thanks to its autofocus, you can take macro close-ups with it. The results are sharp and have plenty of fine detail. The Z Fold7 is much more willing to use its automatic night mode with the ultra-wide cam. The results aren't half bad. Images are generally clean, with wide dynamic range, and the sharpness is good for this kind of camera. One of the benefits of having a foldable device is that you have multiple options for selfies. You can shoot using the inner screen selfie cam, the cover screen selfie cam, and even the rear cameras, using the cover screen as a viewfinder. The new selfie camera on the inner screen does a good job. It's miles ahead of last year's under display camera, and we actually like the results better than the selfie cam within the cover display. Although the cover screen selfie cam has the same sensor, it has a narrower field of view, and the colors aren't as likable as they are on the inner camera. They're a bit more pale and bland for some reason. And of course, the best quality comes from using the main camera to take selfies with. You get more accurate looking colors, better detail, and some natural blur in the background behind the subject. The Z Fold7 supports video recording at up to 8K resolution at 30 FPS with the main camera, while the rest of the cameras cap out at 4K at 60 FPS. The main camera produces excellent looking footage. It's clean, with wide dynamic range, and an impressive amount of detail. Colors are punchy, much livelier than on the stills, and contrast is just right. The telephoto camera does a solid job. Its clips have a good level of detail, and they match the overall processing of the main camera for the most part. Although the ultra-wide camera can't record videos of the same quality as the main camera, the footage is still very good for an ultra-wide, with wide dynamic range. Still, there's a bit more to be desired in terms of sharpness, especially around the edges. The Z Fold7 does a good job when it comes to video stabilization. Our footage was nicely smoothed out. And the low light footage from the main camera is decent. It's rather sharp, with plenty of detail in the shadows. There is some noise though. So that was the Galaxy Z Fold7. We appreciate its thinner and lighter design, the wider cover display, and the new selfie cam and main camera. These are all pretty noticeable upgrades over last year's model. However, there have been some trade-offs as well. The speakers aren't as loud, and there's no S Pen stylus support. Still, if you're looking for a thin flagship foldable with cutting-edge software features, it's easy to recommend the Z Fold7. Thanks for watching, guys. If you're looking for alternatives, you can check out the Google Pixel 9 Pro Fold and the Honor Magic V5. Let us know what you think, and I'll see you on the next one.